Ukraine takes revenge, and the entire world is watching closely. A Russian brigade, long accused of committing war crimes and spreading fear across occupied territories, has been completely eradicated. This was not just a military operation, it was a moral strike, a carefully planned mission that turned into a historic moment in the ongoing war. The destruction of this brigade is being talked about not only in Ukraine, but across Europe, America, and even in Russia itself. It is a reminder that cruelty has consequences and that precision, strategy, and courage can defeat brutality. Hello everyone. Welcome back to the Future X USA channel. Please subscribe, like my videos, and hit the bell icon so you can stay updated with the most important stories shaping our future. Today's story is intense, emotional, and deeply significant, and we are going to unpack it from every angle. First, let us begin with the summary so you understand the big picture before we dive into details. Ukraine carried out an operation that completely wiped out a Russian war criminal brigade. This unit had been operating in occupied regions, and its reputation was stained with reports of torture, civilian killings, looting, and other atrocities. The people of Ukraine had seen their homes destroyed, their families torn apart, and their communities crushed under the boots of this very brigade. So when Ukrainian forces finally cornered and eradicated it, the moment was more than just a tactical win. It was a story of justice, revenge, and hope. In one move, Ukraine managed to weaken Russia militarily, inspire its own people emotionally, and remind the world that international support was not in vain. This is why the story matters, and this is why we are breaking it down step by step. On the outside, the mission looked like a masterpiece of modern warfare. The exterior design of this operation combined intelligence from satellites, information from local resistance groups, and advanced drone surveillance. Every piece of the battlefield was mapped. Russia thought its brigade was safe, but Ukraine had already built a digital cage around it. Artillery units were placed with precision, armored vehicles were hidden in strategic locations, and drones flew silently above, feeding real-time images back to commanders. To the world, it looked like an invisible wall closing in on the Russian brigade. This was not the chaotic warfare of the past, but a modern, technologically supported strike that showed Ukraine had evolved into a fighting force capable of challenging one of the largest armies in the world. The exterior appearance was clear. Russia had no way out. Inside the operation, things were intense, personal, and deeply emotional. Ukrainian soldiers carried not only their weapons, but also the weight of their people's pain. Many of them had lost friends and family to the cruelty of this very brigade. The interior of the mission was powered by unity, discipline, and emotion. Soldiers trusted each other's movements, executed orders with precision, and fought with the knowledge that their actions carried justice for thousands. Communication was encrypted and clear, logistics were managed efficiently, and morale was unshakable. Although the interior story is shorter, it reveals the essence of victory, teamwork fueled by purpose. It was not just soldiers fighting, it was an entire nation's voice being carried onto the battlefield. The performance of the operation is what stunned analysts worldwide. It was fast, it was accurate, and it was devastating. In the past, battles dragged on for weeks or months, but Ukraine demonstrated that with preparation and modern tactics, victory could be achieved in days, even hours. The Russian brigade was dismantled step by step. First, their communication lines were jammed, leaving them blind and isolated. Then artillery strikes took out their armored vehicles. Drones targeted supply trucks, leaving the brigade without fuel or food. Finally, infantry units moved in, finishing the job with determination and precision. Russia's brigade, once proud and feared, was reduced to confusion, retreat, and destruction. Performance like this is rare in modern warfare, and Ukraine delivered it at the perfect moment. The world now saw that Russia's so-called invincible army could be crushed with strategy and courage. Safety features in this operation also stand out. Ukraine knew civilians were nearby, and reckless bombing would have caused tragic losses. Instead, precision-guided weapons were used to minimize collateral damage. Drones scanned civilian areas in advance, ensuring no homes or schools were in the line of fire. This level of care shows the contrast between Ukraine and Russia. While Russia has often targeted civilian centers deliberately to spread fear, Ukraine demonstrated that even in revenge, ethics and safety could be preserved. Another safety feature was the preparation of medical support. Units were backed by emergency medics who treated injuries immediately, saving lives on the battlefield. Safety was also ensured through the use of decoys and countermeasures that reduced Ukrainian casualties. This approach gave Ukraine not only victory, but also moral high ground. What makes this event unique is multi-layered. First, the target itself, a brigade accused of war crimes, was not just a military enemy, but a symbol of injustice. By eliminating it, Ukraine delivered justice in the most direct way possible. Second, the operation demonstrated Ukraine's ability to combine NATO-style tactics with local resistance intelligence. It was not only about weapons, but about strategy, planning, and adaptation. Third, the psychological effect cannot be overstated. For Ukrainians, this was proof that revenge and justice are possible. For Russia, it was a humiliating blow, a reminder that cruelty does not guarantee strength. And for the world, it was evidence that supporting Ukraine yields real results. This uniqueness makes the story not just another battle update, but a defining moment in modern warfare. But victory does not come without a price. Ukraine paid in blood, in resources, and in emotional strain. Soldiers were lost in the operation, and families are mourning even as the nation celebrates. Equipment and ammunition provided by allies were used at a high cost. The financial burden of war continues to weigh heavily on Ukraine, and each successful strike requires months of preparation and resource gathering. Yet the price is justified when weighed against the outcome. By eradicating a war criminal brigade, Ukraine not only avenged its people, but also gained momentum in the war, improved its bargaining position with allies, and weakened the enemy's morale. The cost is heavy, but the value is immeasurable. Looking back, the significance of this operation stretches beyond numbers and tactics. It carries emotional weight. For survivors of villages destroyed by this brigade, the news brought tears of relief. For families who lost loved ones, it was a sign that justice still exists in a world where cruelty often goes unpunished. The story is being told in Ukrainian homes, on social media, in international headlines. It has become part of the collective memory, something children will one day learn about as an example of courage and resilience. Revenge in this case was not blind rage, but calculated justice. That is what makes it powerful. This story also carries a message for Russia. The Kremlin has often claimed that its army is untouchable, that resistance is futile, but the complete eradication of this brigade shatters that myth. It shows Russian soldiers that loyalty to a corrupt command will not protect them from consequences. It also sends a warning to other units accused of atrocities. Justice is coming, and no one is beyond its reach. Inside Russia, the news is spreading despite censorship. Families of the soldiers in that brigade are asking questions, morale is shaken, and propaganda is harder to maintain. The unique selling point of this operation is not just victory, it is the way it changes narratives inside and outside Russia. As we reflect on this story, we must acknowledge that warfare is always tragic, even when victories are celebrated. The loss of life is real, the destruction is real, and the scars left on soldiers and civilians will last a lifetime. Yet in the midst of that darkness, moments like this give people hope. They remind us that resilience and justice are possible. Ukraine is proving that even when outnumbered, even when facing one of the world's largest armies, determination and intelligence can change the battlefield. In conclusion, the eradication of Russia's war criminal brigade is not only a military milestone, but also a symbol of justice and resistance. It shows the world that Ukraine is not only defending its borders, but also defending the principles of humanity. This was revenge, yes, but it was revenge that carried moral weight. It was a statement to the victims that their suffering was not forgotten, and to the aggressors that cruelty will not be forgiven. The exterior strength, the interior discipline, the outstanding performance, the built-in safety features, the unique symbolism, the high price, and the powerful conclusion all form one narrative: justice delivered through courage. As we continue to follow this war, the big question remains: is this the turning point? Will this operation inspire more victories, or will it push Russia to escalate? Only time will answer. But for now, Ukraine has delivered a victory that will be remembered for years. It is not just about weapons and soldiers, it is about people, justice, and the fight for a future free of oppression. Thank you for watching and being part of this journey. Please like, share, and subscribe to Future X USA for more stories that matter. The world is changing, and together we will continue to explore the moments that define our time. Stay strong, stay informed, and never forget that even in the darkest times, justice can shine through. 我秀